The World Series of Comedy. That's what's coming up on The Art of Bombing, episode 167.
My friend Dan, he's got a podcast, 'cause all comics need a podcast, and nobody had a podcast called The Art of Bombing. So Dan went out and bought a tape deck. Who knows why he bought a tape deck? Now podcasts don't get played on tape decks, but Dan is from the 80s. So hey there, all you funny jerks, come talk to Dan about your work. Tell him all about your worst times. It's The Art of Bombing.
Welcome to a brand new episode of The Art of Bombing. Dan Bublitz Jr. here with you on Monday, November 9th, 2020. What an intense week this last week was with the election and all. I hope that your candidate won, and if your candidate didn't, either way, I hope that there's some unity in the upcoming future. I'm not going to get into a lot on politics because yesterday I made a tweet making fun of the governor of South Dakota, and I got trolled hard. People were very upset at the tweet, and it was a very intense Sunday of people trying to troll me and make fun of me and call me names, and that doesn't really work when you're a comedian, though, because to me, a lot of it wasn't that funny, and it wasn't really that hurtful because they're just strangers on the internet. So I'm going to stay away from the politics, other than, making an acknowledgement that the election happened. All right, now, today, you're probably wondering why this episode is coming a day early. Well, that's because I'm going to be releasing a brand new episode every day this week, because I will be recording at the World Series of Comedy. In today's episode, my good friend Rick Jean, who is also a host of the World Series of Comedy, joined me for a conversation. We talked a lot about the World Series of Comedy, kind of what they're about, and we got into a little bit about his comedy career as well. So it was a great conversation, and I figured it would be a good way to kick off the week as I release episodes every day this week. That's the goal. There's over 101 comedians from across the country that are going to be in Las Vegas for this event, so I'm hoping to get quite a few interviews. Now, just to give you a heads up, there will be more than one person on episodes, but they won't be together, if that makes sense. They'll be separate interviews, but in the same episode, so I'll be kind of switching back and forth. But it's going to be a great time, and you're going to have lots of content. So get ready for a great week of comedy from the World Series of Comedy. And if you want to take part in the World Series of Comedy, you can do so. You can watch it. Even if you're not in Las Vegas, they're streaming the shows live. You can make a donation and get access to the streaming shows. If you go to WSOCtickets.com, you can make a donation, and then you get the link to the stream. And like I said, it's 2 to 3 shows every day for 6 days. So there's a lot of shows that are going to be going on this week. This takes place Monday through Saturday. My first show is on Monday at 6 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Mountain Time, 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. So if you want to check me out, that's the time that I will be performing. Make sure if you do go watch any of these shows, though, you throw my name in there as how you were referred to the ticket link. Make sure you use me as a reference code, or a referral code, rather. That way they'll know that, hey, Dan had some people. He got the word out. Now people are watching this festival because Dan helped, and that'd be great. I would appreciate that. All right, so I'm not going to get too much into promoting other than the normal stuff. If you haven't done so already, make sure you like and make sure you subscribe to the podcast. Make sure you like us on social media. We're on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook at at Art of Bombing Pod. Of course, you got the website, artofbombingpod.com. The newsletter I thought was pretty good this previous month. Check that out if you haven't done so already. That's posted in the Art of Bombing Podcast Facebook group, so it is available to the public. So check that out. And lastly, make sure you leave a 5-star review and or a 5-star rating and a nice review. That would definitely be helpful. All right, that's enough babbling from me. Let's get into this conversation with Rick Jean about the World Series of Comedy. Enjoy.
It's now time for the stand-up soundbite.
I'm happy to be here. I've done a lot of overseas tours for the troops. And even though I'm not in the military, I learned a lot about it by doing these tours. The main thing that I learned is that you should never go out drinking with the Marines. Even the small ones. Because those people are crazy. I went to drink with some Marines about 6 weeks ago. I'd have to be honest. I am still drunk. One guy handed me a shot. He said, "Here, drink this." I said, "What is it?" "It's jet fuel. It will make you see God." "Oh, I don't want to see God." Another shot and another Marine came up to me, and he was just staggering drunk. And as he wobbled over, he said, "Dude, I am so wasted right now that I can literally piss tequila." Yeah. I can't believe I fell for it. It tasted nothing like tequila. It kind of tasted like Coors Light. I don't have any pants, but I do have my shirt on.
Oh, hey, whatever. As long as I don't have to see anything, that's all that matters. All that matters to me. So you drove in yesterday to Vegas?
I did, yeah.
Is there yeah, the drive from San Diego to Vegas ain't that bad. It usually goes pretty quick. What is it, about 5 hours? A little less?
Yeah, it's like closer to 6 because there was traffic.
Oh, is it? Oh, yeah, that's true.
Friday, people wanting to get away from the weekend.
Everybody's going to Vegas, yeah. Get out of California and go to one of them states where the virus doesn't exist.
Frozen.
Uh-oh, your internet froze up.
Oh, there you go. Frozen again. Oh, there you go.
Oh, there. Oh.
So, yeah. So people, I think, want to come out here just because things are open. Most things, not everything's open, but yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of how it is out here. I mean, in Minnesota, they're taking it a little more serious, but there's states around us that don't care nothing about it.
Yeah.
So
South Dakota's one of them, right?
Yeah, South Dakota don't give two shits about anything. Yeah. So is there a lot of you mentioned earlier you got a lot of stuff to do to set up. So now you're a host of with the World Series of Comedy. Is this your first year hosting with them, or did you host last year too?
No, it was the first year. Last year I was just a contestant.
Okay, so you were competing, and then this year now you're a host. Well, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
How did that? Did you get to do anything this year? I mean,
well, I did do the first couple satellites.
Okay.
And I was in. I bought plane tickets to like the third satellite. I was like, okay, but it got canceled. And then the other one got canceled. And then the other hosts were just like, we're out, So they had openings, and they asked me if I wanted to do it.
Right on.
And I was like, sure.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. So for people listening, if you're not familiar with the World Series of Comedy, it is an annual comedy festival. But it's more than that because it doesn't just take place once a year. I mean, it does, but it's a big event that basically goes throughout the whole year, essentially. They do mini festivals around the country, what are called satellites, what Rick was talking about. Yep. That's satellites where it's usually 40 comedians are competing, and then at least the winner. I guess I don't know the exact placing, but is it like the top three, right, at the satellites?
The top three automatically make the 101.
Yeah, make the 101. So they do these satellites all over the country. Usually do 1 to 2 a month, it seems like, about. All over. 1 or 2 a month, it feels like. I mean, it's definitely grown. Like, it used to only be a handful of satellites when they started, but now they're getting quite a few satellites, it looks like.
Yeah, there's 12 satellites a year.
Yeah, so which would average 1 a month.
But it's not spread out like 12 months.
No,
Like
I know, I
um,
know.
yeah, like the World Series, the main event was supposed to take place in September.
Hmm.
So it really goes the end of January, early February to September. It's like 8 months.
Yep.
So
Yeah. But so you guys have the satellites, and like I said, that takes place all over. I mean, all kinds of different comedy clubs have been involved in that. So,
yes,
I mean, it's definitely got a strong presence out there. But then 101 comedians go to usually Vegas. Once in a while, they do. I know last year they had it in St. Louis,
yeah, it was
and I
supposed to
think
be St. Louis again this year, but
yeah,
St.
with
Louis got
everything.
canceled, so we had to make adjustments.
Yep. Okay. That's why. Okay. That makes sense then. Why it's in Vegas again. I mean, for the first like 7 years, I think it was always in Vegas, and
Yeah,
then it was in. I want to say, was it maybe Illinois or Indiana
it was in
somewhere? Maybe.
Cincinnati once,
Oh, okay.
like at a
Oh,
casino. No,
yeah.
last year was the first year I've ever signed up for it.
Okay. I've signed
Yeah.
up before. Funny thing is I actually got into a satellite my very first year doing comedy. And I think it was probably pretty close to, it was like their first or second year as a festival, actually, because that's how
Okay,
long
yeah.
I've been doing comedy
This is
now.
their 11th year.
Yeah. So it would have been 10 years ago. So it would have been their second year.
Yeah.
But I ended up not being able to go just because that was right when I moved to California. I got in right before I moved, and then I got out here, and I just didn't have the funding to go, so
Yeah, yeah.
I couldn't go to the satellite that I got in, because the satellite that I got into, I think, was in Des Moines or something. So
Okay, yeah.
so it was like, I can't afford a plane ticket and can't
Yeah,
afford to
yeah.
go for the weekend.
Yeah. Yeah, what's
Yeah.
good about it is the judges, like at the main event, the judges are not going to be the World Series of Comedy judges.
Yeah.
It's always like independent, like bookers from around the country,
Hmm.
and they change every show. I mean, well, not every show, but sometimes some bookers might fly in for a couple days. Like
Yeah. Yep.
like, bookers don't necessarily stay here for the whole week.
Hmm.
So yeah, but the World Series of Comedy, because people might say like, oh, they're just going to like pick their favorites or whatever, but they have nothing to do with it, the judging.
Oh
They're like,
yeah, I gotcha. Oh, I see what you're saying.
yeah,
People kind of complain that the
yeah, but it's
people
also
running.
you're also going to be seen by comedy bookers, definitely,
Yeah,
because I mean,
absolutely.
yeah, like we tell them beforehand, like, hey, if you have to go to the bathroom, go before the show because you can't get up after.
Yeah,
Otherwise.
you don't want them running off. Yeah, that's one thing that always like irked me, like because I've been involved in festivals and stuff. But you'd have like people, they get up and go to the bathroom or go to the bar, and they're supposed to be judging, and it's like
Yeah.
you can't do that if you're
And I
like
saw
that's
that
not.
last year before I thought about hosting or anything. I was just like a contestant. I was in Indianapolis, and the guy who was the club owner was supposed to be judging, and he got up because they're setting in his club in the kitchen, and the festival owner, the World Series of Comedy owner, said like, "No, you got to sit there and watch these guys.
Yeah,
We're gonna let the guy get up."
I
And I was like,
actually judged one year on behalf of the Comedy Palace
"Oh, nice.
because Tony and George didn't want. They were like, I don't want to sit here through this. I got work to do. I'm
Yeah,
trying to run my restaurant and run my club. I ain't got time for this.
yeah,
Couldn't get
yeah."
them. They can never get them two to sit still. So I ended up sitting in and judging. But that was quite a few years ago now. But yeah, I got in last year too, and to the main event, and I was gonna go, and then I ended up having to cancel because my grandma passed away, so I had to
Yeah.
do family stuff or whatever. So I ended up not going. But yeah, I was planning on going, and then when I got in this year, I was like, you know what? I don't have a job right now. I don't have any real other commitments that are going to prevent me. I've saved up some money, so I got a little bit, and so I'm looking at it as an investment. I'm like, all right,
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not going because I care about winning this contest. I mean, obviously that'd be cool, but I see a lot of the comics that are in it, and I'm like, I know there's comics that are way stronger than me and
I would
probably
say
way
I
more.
think you have an excellent chance of winning your first day.
Well, yeah, but like I said, the whole thing,
Yeah.
I don't see that happening. I don't
No,
see
no,
it,
no,
and
right.
and
Yeah, you
I'm
can't.
fine with that. I'm fine
Yeah.
with that. I'm
Yeah.
not coming out there for the purpose of winning this festival. I'm coming out with
That's a
I've
good
got
attitude to have.
I have two things that I'm pretty much doing. I'm networking and hoping to get my face in front of bookers that I haven't met, you
Sure.
know, and network with other comics. That's the number one thing. And number two, I'm gonna make content, you know, with the podcast and things like that. That's the other
Yeah,
thing
yeah.
I'm looking at. It's a great opportunity to get some comics, you know, that I wouldn't necessarily meet or interact with on the podcast. So
Yeah, totally.
yeah. So for me, it's like, well, this is all about business. And thirdly, they've got some seminars that look interesting. So I'm going to go check some of that industry panels and stuff out too. So
Yeah.
to
You can
me,
do all that stuff easily. I mean, that's
yeah.
you have a good attitude to have.
Yeah. And to me, this is a convention to me. Like, this is like a business convention. I don't even look at it like it's a competition. I mean, I know it is, but I'm like, that's the least
exactly how you
thing
look
from
at
my mind.
it.
Yeah. Because they do a pretty good job at the main event with having, you know, activities and stuff like social panels and stuff like that. It looks like
Yeah. Things are a little different this year because of the pandemic. And
well,
social
obviously.
distancing.
Yeah. I mean, that's obvious. That I feel like at this point of the year, we don't even have to mention that things are going to be a little different because it's obvious.
Yeah.
Everything's different now with COVID.
Yeah, but you're in South Dakota, so maybe not, you know?
No, I'm not. I live in St. Paul. So
Oh, you do?
I live in Minnesota.
Okay.
Yeah. I've been here about a year and a half now.
Oh,
so,
nice. Okay, cool. Yeah, St. Paul's nice.
Yeah, St. Paul's great.
Hey, one of the owners of the Rick Bronson Comedy Club will be out here.
Oh, will they? Oh,
yeah.
Right.
Well, Rick Bronson. Rick Bronson's coming.
Oh, is he? Oh, well, that's cool. Yeah, I've never met him. I just actually did my first opening weekend at the House of Comedy here in the cities.
Okay.
A couple weeks ago, October. Yep, the one at the mall. But I think it's booked. The openers, when they use local openers, is booked through a local booker. It's not booked, you know, like the headliners, I'm sure, get booked through a club, you know, like a whole company booker because they have more than one club.
What about their features?
Well, that's what I mean. Openers and features when they book
openers
local.
And features. Okay, gotcha.
Because sometimes that depends. Because sometimes a headliner will bring their own features, things like that. So when there are openings for openers and features, it's usually booked locally by a local booker. So it's not like the same process of getting into the club, you know. At least not this one. Like featuring at this one isn't going to necessarily guarantee me feature work at one of the other clubs. You know, it's not like you're in with the whole club. Kind of like with the Funny Bones, you know, you have to kind of audition, and once you're auditioned, then they might start working you in all their clubs. Which that would be nice. It would be nice to get to that level, but like I said, this is more about just networking and stuff. Yeah. And then, you know, and like I said, I looked at some of the panels. They look pretty interesting. Some of them. I mean, I'm obviously not.
But I don't remember. Is there a podcast one this year?
No podcast one this year. Okay. Which to me, that would have been one I wouldn't have been that interested in because I've been podcasting for a while. I could probably teach it. Yeah, exactly. And just like this year, there's one like for screenwriting, and I've did enough screenwriting where that doesn't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like some of them, but they're trying. It's about variety too. I feel like, you know, they want to have something for everybody because, like you said, with the pandemic, it is a lot different. Not everybody is going to be able to go because they have to use, you know, reduced capacity and things like that. So
the club they set it up pretty nicely because, you know, we were in there yesterday, like wondering how we're going to put the we're streaming all the shows.
Yeah.
So we're wondering how we're going to get the cameras in there, and we're not allowed to have like any other people in there, like extra people, because the ticket for every person we have in there. And there's only a maximum number of 50 people allowed in the club at the time, right? And so if we allow, you know, like people in there to film and all that stuff, then that takes away
from the audience
revenue.
Yep, that makes sense.
So the comics have to wait outside until it's their turn. The host is going to have to host and then go outside. You know, it's going to be different. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds like it. Although sometimes that's
Unless there happens to be a show where there's not many tickets sold.
yeah.
Because they
But
can't exceed. But the club itself is not that big. But they did
yeah.
space all the seats out,
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. But I've been doing a few shows even out here, like that's kind of the same thing. Like I just did the Minneapolis Funniest Person contest the other day, the first round. And usually, like if they're at their capacity, like all the comics have to wait outside, not allowed in the showroom. In this case, it was undersold, so we were able to go in there this particular night. But had it been sold out crowd wise, we all had to wait out kind of in a lobby, and that's kind of like a lot of places. It's like you gotta, comics gotta wait outside. And it's totally understandable because the revenue that they're, a lot of these places are losing, they need every dollar they can get.
Yeah. They're going for $30. So I mean, it's just kind of like, ugh. And that's not $30 that goes to the festival. That goes to club,
Yeah.
You got to pay for staff and their bills and all that,
Yep,
so.
Absolutely. They definitely have their overhead. Well, now that we talked a little bit about the World Series of Comedy, well, real quick before I get into that though, or past that. So this is your first year hosting and stuff. How many shows do you have to host during the week? Because you're not the only host, right?
No, there's two of us. We alternate.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say because that's exhausting.
Well, the first day is going to be exhausting because I'm doing the first show the first day, and the first one's the wild card rounds, and
actually,
that's 15 comics.
Yep. I was just going to say, if you would real quick, why don't you kind of give a breakdown of how the week goes as far as the contest goes?
Okay. The first day, there are 45 wild card comics.
Okay. Yep.
Okay. They're all performing on Monday.
I'm a wild card, baby!
On 3 different shows. The shows were at 6, 8, and 10. Now, 6 sounds early, but the LA Comedy Club has shows every night at 6, 8, and 10. That's their normal schedule.
And that's do they run 7 days a week?
They do.
I can't remember. They do. Okay, I couldn't remember. I know some do, some don't.
Yeah, they do. So 6, 8, and 10 is their normal schedule, which is what. So anyway, so it's 6, 8, and 10, and there's 15 comics on each show. So that's 45 comics, and
that's
all of them are
5 minutes, right? Yeah. That's. Oof.
And I'm hosting the first show and the third show.
Because
we're doing and the other guy's he's more into the streaming stuff, so he's going to make sure the streams all work on the first show, and the second show I'm going to be in charge of streaming. But hopefully everything works good the first show, so all I have to do is hit buttons,
Yeah, for sure. So okay,
and then I'm hosting the third show. Then the second day, the shows I think they are. They're only at 6 and 8, right? But these comics are. I don't know what they call them. They're just like the regular comics, whatever.
So those are the preliminary rounds, right?
Yeah, and there's 45 there, and they're doing 6 and 8 at like 6 p.m. and 8 p.m. And I think they do. See, it's different than the satellites because the satellites only have 40 comics.
Yeah,
this one has 101. So I could be wrong with the time. They're either doing 7 or 8 minutes apiece.
Yeah.
And I'm hosting the second show because we're alternating every show. So since I host the first and third, he's hosting the first show, which would be the fourth. I'm hosting the second show, which would be the fifth. And that goes on until like Friday. Friday night, there's 6, 8, and 10 again, with the 10 being the first round. See, comics advance. In the wild card round, you the winners, the people, we're doing it this year where you can vote online. Everything's different because now we're streaming shows live.
Yeah.
Now, but people should, I don't even know if I should say this, but the online vote's a small percentage of your score. It's mainly going to be the Booker judges.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, and I feel like that I think makes it a lot more fair in a contest like
that's
this.
That's why we're doing it,
yeah. I mean, because then at that point, it's just a bringer festival. You know what I mean? Like, it's a bringer. It's like every other comedy contest at that point.
Yeah.
If the audience determines.
I'm not even sure if it really counts online score just to keep, like, people interested, I mean, because it really doesn't count. I mean, it's mainly what the judges want.
Yeah, it's a small percentage.
Yeah.
essentially. So it's more of like insight. It'd almost be like the audience is more like a council, like
It would probably be like a tiebreaker. Like if two judges.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, but if you get like 1,000 people voting for you, doesn't mean anything.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. If you can get 1,000 people online to stream it and vote for you, maybe you do deserve to advance.
Yeah.
Because that means you've got a pretty good following.
It's true. I mean, the club, if nothing else, may want you to come back.
Yeah, no shit. Definitely mean you're in demand.
Yeah. So the wild card winners then go on to they make the top 45, which would then become the top. I think it's like 2 from each of the wild card rounds. I could be wrong. I have to look at the actual. How but they get spread out throughout the week, whatever, on each show. And then the winners from that then go on to like the next round. And each round you're doing more time.
Yeah, because that's the other thing that with it grows. Like
yeah. And
like wild like.
The final show is Saturday night at 8 p.m. And there's going to be 3 comics, and they each do 25 minutes.
Yep.
So that's really the goal you want. I mean, the 25-minute set in Las Vegas Comedy Club,
Yeah, for sure. In front of bookers, too, because then it can at least
and that's
it shows that you can at least feature.
Yeah. I mean, or maybe you can't. Maybe you only have 10 minutes,
But that's going to show it, too, though.
Yeah,
I mean, that's the thing. I mean,
yeah.
If you make it to the final round, to the finals, and you can only do 10, 15 minutes, and then a booker, anybody that's been in the business for a while is going to be able to tell when a comic's struggling because they're trying to stretch because they don't have the time. I mean, that's going to be obvious.
And there are so many comics, too, like L.A. or New York comics. They rarely get more than 10-minute sets,
And that's what's kind of unfortunate, like, especially with, like, comedy festivals and comedy contests and things, is, like, you can have a really good video, right, and get into a festival, but not be a strong comic. But you can be a strong comic and not have a good video and not get into a festival.
I've seen some good comics with crappy videos.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm just like, oh, Jesus, this guy's better than this,
Yeah. I know, granted, you haven't got to do a lot of this just because, I mean, you did compete last year, but the hosting part, because I was curious. I reached out to Joe, but he was just too busy, which I totally understand. But because I'm curious because this is the podcast is The Art of Bombing. So we got to talk a little bit about that. Okay. Have you seen anybody just really bomb hard at one of these events? I mean, it's got to happen. Everybody has an off night.
Yeah, but the thing is, the people who bomb are usually the wild card people because they're not as strong as the other people.
Thanks.
No, I mean, it's just honest. I
know.
I mean, everybody bombs. Even headliners.
No, I know.
But also, they're only doing 5 minutes. So if they're bombing, they're done quickly.
Yeah. No, this is true. This is true.
I think that last year at the main event. There was at like the finals. There was a guy he did 25 minutes who didn't. I don't know if he's ever done 25 minutes before.
Oh, so it's exactly what we were talking about.
Yeah,
where
I just didn't want to bring it up, But yeah. I mean, he didn't have it. He didn't have it, and it was obvious he didn't have it.
Yeah,
like it was plainly obvious.
Yeah, and that's going to show.
He was great doing the same set throughout the week.
Yep. Yeah.
I mean, which is why he made it there.
Yeah, and that happens.
Yeah, he got exposed. I mean, he took a lot of water breaks.
Oh, anything to stretch that time.
Yeah, it was very obvious.
Oh well, that's not. Yeah, because I definitely, I'm sure, especially Joe, running this contest for 11 years now, he's had to see some horrible shit.
Happen. I mean, 100% people bomb, and I go like. Because last year, for the most part, I did a lot of the wild card rounds. Right? I didn't realize I didn't know much about the videos. All I did was like, oh, you want a 5-minute video? Let me find a clip. So I found like a set. It was like a 30-minute set, but I found a 5-minute clip and said, here you go, whatever, right? Yeah. And it wasn't probably the best, I think. Well, it wasn't in hindsight. But then after talking to him, you get like feedback. You could get feedback. All I have to do is ask Jason, like, hey, can you give me feedback? Just send him an email. Can you give me feedback on my video? And they'll tell you what all the judges say about you. They don't tell you what judge says what because they don't want you going to the judge and saying, hey, what the hell, man? Right?
Yeah, obviously.
They would just say, like, Judge 1 says this. Judge 2 says this in the comments, right? And I don't even know who all the judges were. I know one would be Jason, one would be Joe. Jason's the vice president of the festival. Joe's the president. And then the other three are just the other bookers, the club owners, whoever.
Yeah.
But there was a common theme that they all said about my video, which was just the way I was holding the mic stand and all that, They just looked unnatural. And the reason I was doing like that, I was kind of getting it ready for my following joke, which wasn't in the video. Because I just clicked, right? And so, but it's still, they were right. I was like, yeah, it's not a good submission video because all they know in the submission video about you is what you submit, They don't know anything that happened before. So if you have any references to anything that happened before, they're not going to get, anything that ends in a callback, they're not going to understand.
Yep. Those are all important things too to think about when you're doing a video. Like, a lot of times we, as comics, when we're trying to get a submission video ready, we're only thinking about, okay, we got to make sure we get some good laughs. We got to make sure there's the good video. They can see us. The sound's good. But you're right. The references like that, like if you're setting something up for later in your set or doing a callback that wasn't in that clip, it's gonna make for a bad submission because people watching it are gonna be like, well, why are they laughing so hard? I don't get why that was funny.
That wasn't funny at all.
Yeah, right. Well, I know you're strapped for a little bit of time, so I just real quick. Do you have a quick bombing story?
Yeah, here's one I had a friend remind me of this recently. This happened. God, this must have been about 15 years ago or more, right? I used to perform at the Comedy Store all the time, the one in La Jolla. I was the Comedy Store back in the 2002 when I started working there to 2008 was different than it is now. Okay, now it's like a big deal. When I was all around, it was kind of like a dead zone. Nobody went there. I mean, I got past in Hollywood and from San Diego, and I'll go up there, and I kept getting bumped for time over and over. I would drive up there, and it would be like, Eddie Griffin's coming in, he's doing, and it's like, so I'd drive up there and then not get to perform. And it happened over and over and over. So I got kind of like, well, fuck the Comedy Store. But anyways, so I used to get spots at the Comedy Store every Wednesday and Thursday in La Jolla. And I was doing a spot before that at some bar. And the reason I'm bringing up the Comedy Store is to tell you that after the bar show, I had to leave because I had to go to the Comedy Store. And I was always early at the Comedy Store because I'm fairly clean, and it was just first or second every night at the Comedy Store. But I was in a bar show before that, and the joke I had was not funny. It's about it was something like I read something, and I stopped. I think I probably dropped it that night. But the joke was it was about drunk driving. Oh, I read an article that said whenever there's an accident involving a drunk driver, it's usually the drunk driver who lives and the sober people who die. So I started drinking and driving because I don't want to die. Okay, it's it was one I've actually heard comics do it since then, but I mean this was 15 years ago. But it was kind of stupid. Anyways, there's a guy in the front who was really drunk, right? And he got pissed because he lost his family to a drunk driver. Okay.
Oh, Jesus. And he was drinking?
Yeah, he was wasted.
Oh, wow.
And I mean, maybe he wasn't driving, but I was making fun of him and his family. Obviously, I didn't know. I just wanted to leave. So I tried to leave, but I couldn't leave because he was blocking just the way the bar was set up. It was a small bar. He was blocking the only exit, right? And there were some bouncers there who told him, hey, you got to go. Because he was throwing things around, really out of control. And then they kicked him out. He went outside and he broke. It was like a big glass thing, big glass window outside the bar. And he punched it and broke it, and it shattered. So the whole bar. Oh, Jesus! Yeah, and then the security guards tackled him, and I'm going holy shit! I had to leave, but now I can't leave because now there's fighting right outside the door. And that's what I also realized. I mean, it was bombing. It was bombing because he was really the only audience member,
Yeah.
and
But
and he
you,
hated it. It was worse
well,
than that because I also learned that words are pretty impactful. I thought they're just silly little jokes. I'm just doing like, hey, little jokes.
yeah, yeah.
I was like, wow, there's some power behind these words.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and that's a good lesson, but
Yeah.
also, I mean, like you said, like you don't know that we as comics, we don't know what the audience is going through. When we make a joke, we're just making it to us, this is a silly joke or an
Yeah,
observation
yeah,
or something that happened to us that we're talking about. And
yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's easy to forget that these things can happen to other people, but it still doesn't mean we know, just a harmless joke. Because, I mean,
Yeah.
at that point, if he thought you were just making fun of him, or whatever, he ain't going to like you at all.
Yeah, and I completely forgot about that until I ran into another comic who was at that show. And he was like, hey, remember when that happened? And I was like, oh, yeah. But
Oh,
I've
yeah.
had
Yeah.
hundreds of shows where I'm just bombing, where like, everything I say just flat lines.
Yep.
But that
Yep.
happens so often. It's happened so often that it doesn't register anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, it
It just
registers. It
take
makes
the
me feel
hits and, yeah. Well, and then you take the hits and just keep on moving,
bad.
essentially. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and you've taken some hits physically, too, in the sense where you, like, at a show, didn't you, like, have, like, a mini stroke or something, or you passed out?
Yeah. I guess that could be bombing too when you have to be escorted off stage by ambulance.
Yeah, like that was. I remember when that happened. That was.
Usually you want to leave under your own power.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was weird. It was like my brain was working, but the words weren't coming out.
Yeah.
It was like I'll be, if I want to say something, it'll come out blue, blue,
Hmm.
blue, blue, and I didn't know what. I kept trying, but nothing was coming. It wasn't coming out the way it was supposed to. And
Yeah,
then
that's
Gina
crazy.
Manning was there, and she's like, "Oh no, you're not well."
Yeah, yeah. And there was another comic that was a nurse too that was around. I thought too.
Yeah,
Uh,
Lynn. Yeah, Lynn
yeah.
Goodman.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah,
Yep.
she was there.
Yep. Yep.
Uh, um, and by the time the ambulance came, they took my blood pressure, and it was like 210 over 107, just something outrageous. I was like,
Wow, that's crazy.
yeah.
Yeah, that was a scary. I remember when that happened. That was a scary time. Because then after, didn't you have a couple almost incidents after that too?
Well, it was. I had to come like every now and then, and so it also it actually made me not quit comedy, but it made me really scared.
Yeah,
Because
for
that
sure.
happens. And your blood pressure rate goes up, even if you're not nervous, but it goes up just being on stage in front of
Oh
people.
yeah, you got all that
It actually goes
adrenaline
up.
running through. Yep.
Yeah, yeah, totally. So it was that, and yeah. So the next few times I had like I was scared to go off script for a while,
Hmm.
because I figured if it was something I've said, a million times before, I could just be on autopilot.
Oh
There
yeah.
didn't have to be a lot of thinking involved, or you know.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, it definitely it's. But then I got on meds, to reduce like my heart rate, and like they have them right here next to me. Like this one,
No,
this
that's
one's a
good.
blood thinner. Yeah,
Oh yeah. Well, all the stuff. Hey, if it helps, you look healthy, so that's good, right?
yeah. But what was weird though was, see, what happened was when I got like all the tests done, I was hyperthyroid because I used to be really skinny too.
Yeah. Yep.
And I was hyperthyroid because my thyroid was just going overactive, which made my heart rate go way too fast. I was basically like I don't know, like a squirrel or something, just one of those.
That was like the best way to describe you because you totally were. Like even like especially like on stage, the way your energy was and like squirrel is a good way to describe you.
Yeah, I was all hyper, I didn't mean to
Yep.
be. It was
Yeah.
just, and my diet was I ate nothing but like pizzas and drank like Pepsi. Not even diet, but then when they fixed all that, they killed my thyroid. They gave me it's actually a thing of it was I had to go to nuclear medicine, and they gave me like a nuclear pill, whatever. It was like a special iodine
Yep.
pill. They killed my thyroid,
And I was thinking, man, this is the best superhero origin story ever. Spider-Man can become like a superhero by getting bit by a spider. Why can't you give me a nuclear pill and turn me into something? But so that now I have no thyroid, which is another pill I have, a synthetic thyroid. And since then, I just ballooned.
Yeah. Well, you look good, so.
Yeah, I feel good.
That's good. That's good. That's what it's all about. Well, I got a few things we'll go through real quick. Some of my standard stuff that I like to talk about. You kind of touched on it already, but I have the bumming of bombing, the dreadful feeling from bombing. How long does that usually last for you, and how has that changed over the years?
It used to last a long time. Now it doesn't. Now because it's happened so many times, Now it's just like if I go up there and no one laughs, whatever, I go, hey, whatever, I'll get them next time,
Mm-hmm.
Now I just really shrug it off. I mean, I don't like it.
Well, if somebody was doing comedy and they liked bombing, you got something wrong with that, right?
Yeah.
What do you do?
I like it, but it's also inevitable, I know
the
next time I go on stage, I very well may bomb,
Mm-hmm.
But I also learn to write tighter to get to the first joke quicker.
What do you? Well, that's good because that's a lead into my next question: is what do you do to analyze your sets, like when you have a bad set, to try to improve it?
If I have a bad set, it's usually because I got too wordy, and I lost them. Either I lost them or I never had them. And I think people have a very if you're somewhere, I think they'll give you, if they have no idea who you are, they be in the audience. You come on stage, they'll be like, okay, let's see if this guy's funny. But they have a short attention span. If you're not funny up front, they'll be like, nope, not interested. Let's get they talk amongst themselves or, whatever else they do, So you have to be funny in the, beginning,
Yeah. I think funny and likable.
Yeah. Yeah, they have to at least want to hear you.
Yeah. Do you have a writing process? Like, do you sit down and write? I know you've been doing comedy for a long time, so maybe you don't have a strict writing process anymore, or maybe you did. But do you set so much time a day for writing, or what's your writing process?
I constantly write in my head.
Okay.
Right?
Yep.
Same. Which has pissed girls off I've dated because I'm absent-minded. I'm always not there, but it's usually because it's always going.
Yeah.
And when I come up with something I think is kind of funny, I have my phone and I just put it in the notes.
Mm-hmm.
And I have I have hundreds of notes, and some of them would never go anywhere. Sometimes I'll go, oh, that's funny. Sometimes I'll go like, hey, this bit can combine with this bit, and make something.
Yep.
But I can't sit down and go, okay, what's funny today? Look around the room. Otherwise, all my jokes would be about video games and TV shows.
Yeah.
Jerking off. There's nothing else in my room happening, I mean,
video games, TV, and jerking off. Wow, are you 12? What's going on here?
Yeah, exactly. The life I wanted when I was 12.
Now that I have my own income, I can live the life I want, and I choose to live like I'm 12. I love it. Too funny. Do you have a pre-show tradition or ritual something you do before every show?
No, I do like to kind of wander off on my own and just kind of clear some things up in my head, But it's not nothing. I'm not really superstitious. Like some people have like a certain shirt they want to wear, or I have no superstition like that. My ritual is just if I know, if there's a comic before me. I mean, obviously not this week because I'm hosting. But if there's a comic before me, when he's on stage or she's on stage, I usually just kind of, just want to get the first couple sentences going,
Yep. Which
a
makes
lot
sense.
of times I might open with something happening around the room, whatever, just to go okay. I just want to make sure I have it worded correctly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I kind of do that sometimes too. Try to have kind of an improv opening, maybe something that makes reference to something that happened or that's in the room, that kind of thing. Usually when I do it, though, it fails. So and then I make everything awkward. So sometimes though, I do it works really good though when you think of an improv line.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, I took a risk at my dry bar taping, and I got a new opening for when I do clean shows. And I don't know why I never just said this before, but I was sitting up in the green room waiting, while the other comic was on. I was just, going through, like you said, you go through your jokes and trying to get in the game, your head in the game, clear it out, figure out how you're going to open, whatever. And I was like, well, this is a clean show. My last name's Booblets. So I walked up on stage and I said, yes, my name is Dan Booblets Jr., which makes being a clean comedian difficult. Got like the best laugh of all my jokes.
Really?
Yeah. It got a really good laugh. Because it was a clean show. Like at a regular show, that's not a great opening line. But when it's a specifically billed as a clean show, it's a lot funnier. I basically have the name of unmentionables in my name or whatever. I don't know. It's funny. But all right, the last thing, a couple things real quick. What's been your favorite or best gig so far? You've done a lot over the years, so.
The best gigs, I always have the most fun, and one of my favorite gigs was at Pearl Harbor. The way the room was set up, it was on a base, obviously, but it was the people were sitting on couches, but I just felt super comfortable there. And It was a big deal because the one who booked the tour was my first overseas tour. And even though Pearl Harbor's the United States, I went there we did Japan first, and so it was really an overseas tour. But the guy who booked the tour with the USO happened to be there that day. So it's kind of a big deal that that was the one show he saw. And
okay.
It was actually the best show I had on the whole tour because I felt really comfortable and good. I liked the way the audience were, seated, all that, And then after the show, a bunch of guys who had submarines said, hey, come back to the sub with us. Now, I was in the Navy for 4 years. I never went anywhere near a sub. That's some high security stuff.
Oh, wow, right? Yeah.
They're just, drunken sailors going, come on to the sub with us. So the whole sub invited us on,
No, that's right on. All right, well, the last thing I like to do is I like to play a game called Pick a Number. You're going to pick a number between 1 and 20, and I'm going to ask you a corresponding question. It may be comedy-related, and it may not.
Okay, number 3.
Number 3. Oh, this is a good one. I think this is the first time I've had this one. Describe yourself in 3 words.
Okay, to describe myself to other comedians or to just anybody?
Just anybody. If you were going to describe yourself in 3 words, what 3 words would you use?
Okay, well, hopefully funny. Creative and sincere.
There we go. Funny, creative, and sincere. Squirrel, squirrel, squirrel.
Squirrel, where?
Oh, that's great. All right. Well, I keep saying last thing, but this is the last thing. Where can people find you? Go ahead and plug your social media.
Social media. I don't use Instagram much. I keep promising I'm going to use it more because I have like a new iPhone, so I have like a fancy camera, but then I go like, I hardly ever take pictures. So that's the thing. I just don't take pictures. But I'm on Instagram. I'm on Twitter, which I mainly just use to laugh at politicians and troll them. And then I'm also Facebook. And everything I'm on is Rick Gene. Sometimes it might be Rick_Gene, but if you just look at Rick Gene, you'll find me. I don't have any aliases,
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, thanks so much for doing this.
Yeah, there's no squirrel comedy.
The Art of Bombing is a Blitzed Entertainment production. Hosted and produced by Dan Booblets Jr., The Art of Bombing intro music was written and performed by John Holt. All other music used in this podcast was under the Creative Commons license. If you would like to help The Art of Bombing, you can do so by subscribing, rating, and reviewing our show on whatever podcast application you use to listen to The Art of Bombing. For previous episodes, blogs, and more, visit artofbombingpod.com. Have a great week. And remember, stay safe so you can live to love.